So thank you for joining us today. The mystery has been solved. You'll notice sometime yesterday I received an email from the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, CISA. It's a government agency that's tasked with watching out for problems and alerting people. And Oracle announced that they had a bunch of critical patch updates that they needed to implement. And so the original release date was yesterday, and then it's hitting inboxes today. So if I hit this and I click on it, there's information about why it's so important. Can everybody see this? 366 vulnerabilities across multiple products. Let's take a closer look at just how many we're talking about. Okay. So I just had this up on the screen. If I look at the actual Oracle website that references this, the count is rising. So now there are 4 more security patches, and guess what products are involved? Well, just about everything that Oracle does, to include, what do you see right here? VirtualBox, right? So we've been having some really weird things happening with our virtual machines, and they haven't been behaving very well. And we ask you to upgrade to 7.0.0. The plot thickens. When I go to VirtualBox, we all loaded 7.0.0. When you click on this, now it's providing 7.0.2. And what's even weirder is that earlier in the month of October, the latest version I had installed was 6.1.38. And I don't remember a 6.1.40. That's just me. But 7.0.0 came out, and we told everybody to go ahead and install that. And that's when all the melee started, right? Well, we had some students roll back to the old version after 7.0.0 made their system very unstable. So they rolled down the screen to older builds. Now, here are the older builds that VirtualBox is giving you access to reload. What version don't you see in this list?
The 7.0?
Yeah, you don't see 7.0.0, do you? Yeah, it's not listed. So when we click on this, I don't see 7.0.0 at the top of the list. I just see 6.1. Well, Oracle would say that's because you clicked on the 6.1. Well, my question to them is, hey, where's your 7.0.0, right? The old build. If you had problems, can you roll back? So what are we saying? They don't have a listing for 7.0.0 anywhere. They list their other previous versions, including 6.1.40, which I guess was released on 11 October. But then what else was hitting at the same time? Oh, all of this stuff, the VirtualBox stuff, right? The notice that says you need to update VirtualBox. So where are we going next? I need everyone, if you've completed the latest assignments and you now have VirtualBox 7.0.0 on your system, you need to load 7.0.2. And let's not waste any time. We're just going to take time in class right now because a lot of problems that people have been having getting their virtual machine to work properly simply vanish as soon as they load the new version. Now, it still shows 7.0. That's the main, but everybody see the 2 right here? Yours probably reads 0 if you weren't aware of it. Yours will say 7.0.0. Now remember that what you want to do is close. I want you to do this now in class with me. You're going to power off all of your virtual machines.
This is if we have 7.0, right?
If you have 7.0.0, or if you have an old version, 6.1.38 or 6.1.40,
Oh, okay.
you're going to power off all of your virtual machines. If they're in a saved state, you're going to revive them and then power them off gracefully. Then you're going to close VirtualBox. If you have a 6.1 version, you're going to uninstall it with Control Panel. Right? You're going to use Control Panel under Programs and Features and uninstall a 6.1 version. If you're still operating on 6.1, that's what you're going to do. Then you're going to go to the VirtualBox main website and you're going to click into the main screen with the big blue button. Whether you have a 6.1 version or you have a 7.0.0 version, you'll click into this. You'll select which version that you have. You'll also select the extension pack. Once you get those 2 in your downloads folder, you're going to select and right-click and run as administrator the new version, 7.0.2. That'll install. After it's finished installing, you're going to double-click the extensions pack. Then once you install the extensions pack, and you have this screen here, you can show me this screen here. Once you have the 2 on the end, you're going to want to turn on your PGBook virtual machine again and insert the guest editions disk. You remember I was having problems getting it to behave the other day? I was double clicking things that wouldn't load properly. Then I found a button. I think that was Tuesday, wasn't it? We don't want to do anything in our class if we're using a virtual machine that's unstable because we're using an unstable version. So, right, I'm going to click into this. It'll give you this message and I'm just going to say capture. Yeah, this is really weird. So my server 2022 virtual machine worked just fine. This one is giving me a fit. So let me see if I can close this. I'll power this off. Let me check my settings. Once you get your virtual machine running, you want to do the updates again. apt-get, update, apt-get, upgrade. The same thing we walked through. So if I go into my settings, I just want to verify I don't have any exclamation points. Still looks good. see, the hard disk is booting first. Network card. Can everyone see that I have 4 gigs of memory here?
Yes.
Okay. Can everyone see that
Yes.
I have 2 CPUs?
Yes.
Okay, and then I've enabled this setting here, right? I've used VMS SVGA and I use 128 megs. This is empty, right? So that should show guest editions in there. This shows bridged. I'm going to try to load my system one more time, and if it doesn't work, I'm going to rebuild this virtual machine from scratch. What am I saying? I'm going to save the virtual hard disk as if I were pulling it or removing it from a physical machine. And then I'm going to recreate this custom machine. Now I could take the appliance, the OVA file, and I could import it again and just rebuild my PGBook from scratch. So that's one option I could do. But I'm going to try to see if I can resuscitate it and rebuild it as if it were a physical machine. And it's pretty cool when that works. So a lot of times with major version upgrades, as long as you save the hard drive, and this is a 20 gig hard drive that's dynamically allocated, those are things I have to remember when I'm rebuilding the machine. So my system has 2 CPUs. It uses 4 gigs of RAM. I have an optical disk. My floppy disk is unchecked. The hard disk I'm pointing to is dynamic. It already exists. So let's see what happens. Everybody's experience is going to vary, and that's why we're going to take the time to work on this together in class, since we'll be using this machine some more. All right, so I'm going to hit Ubuntu. Now I could have selected advanced options, so I could see if I could get past this point here. It says there's a kernel panic, it's not syncing. So I'll go ahead and power this off again. And then start it one more time. This time when I get the menu option, instead of just starting with the first option, I'll start in advanced. Advanced, oh, advanced. Let's do generic. Let's see if this makes any difference. Nope, I still have the same issue. Has anyone else seen this same challenge on their screen?
Mm-mm.
Okay. Well, if we have some updates and recovery steps, it's not a bad thing that we're doing this together and walking through it together. So at this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to close my virtual box, and I'm going to go into my VHD folder that I created for this. I have a VM folder on the C drive, and here's my PGBook. That's where I decided to load my PGBook. I'm going to move my VDI file from here into a temp folder just just to get it out of the way, because I want to delete everything except for the disk. So pretend that you're working in a research lab and one of your workstations dies or your server dies. And you know the hard disk is good, but the motherboard is fried. Let's say there's a lightning storm or something like that, power surge, and it fries the system. If you called a technician from Dell to come in to help, they'd bring a brand new server with a new motherboard and new RAM chips and all the other components, and they'd probably pull the disk out. They'd replace the guts of the machine, and then they'd put the disk back in and then turn it on, and hopefully none of the data on the disk was actually corrupted. 9 times out of 10 that works. So that's what we're doing here, only we're using the virtual environment to do it. And so I've moved this into a temp folder just to get it out of the way. Now I'm going to go into VirtualBox. And everybody help me remember PGBook VM 2020, right? I'm actually going to take a print screen of this so I remember this. I want to name this the same exact name, same memory size, all that. Now I'm going to delete this. So I'm removing the virtual machine, and I'm going to delete all the files. And if I did this right, I can go inside my temp folder, and I still have my virtual hard disk, right? Can everybody see that? That's still there. Now, what about my virtual machine folder? It didn't delete all the files, did it? So it's gonna, yeah, what I'm gonna do is make sure it's gone. I'm gonna delete the folder as well. And then I'm gonna close this off. And I'm gonna empty my recycle bin. So except for the virtual hard disk, all of the other components of that virtual machine are gone. I'm going to open up VirtualBox. I'm going to use an option in Tools called the Virtual Media Manager. Does everybody see this?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna select that in a moment. What I'd like to do is in here, I want to recreate the folder that was in here before. It was called what? PGBook VM 2020, wasn't that it? Is everybody with me? Bless you.
I think so.
PGBook VM 2020, right? I'm going to move the hard disk back into the folder with the same name, because when I rebuild this thing, I want to point to that hard drive when it's rebuilt here. Okay. And actually, now that I think about it, that might cause a problem. It'll say that that's currently existing. Let's try something else first. I'm going to put this in the VHD folder that I made. So virtual hard disk, that's what VHD means. And VDI is VirtualBox's own proprietary version of a virtual hard disk. Are there any questions at this point? So I just want to find a home for my virtual hard disk, and I have a separate folder called VHD for virtual hard disk. That's where I keep my other one. And I still don't have a folder here, so I'm going to go ahead and create a new one and point to that virtual hard disk. So I'm going to go ahead and go into my virtual media manager. Can everybody see here? Do you see the PGBook virtual hard disk listed here? Hello?
No.
No. So I'm going to add it. And I'm going to go into the virtual hard disk folder and put it here so that it's accessible to other virtual machines when they're being built. Okay. This is pre-existing. It's 20 gigs large. So I'm going to go ahead and now I'm going to go back and I'm going to create a new machine, right? So I'm going to go to the machine menu and create a new one. And originally this is in guided mode, but I'm going to select expert mode because I want to be specific. I'm going to create a name called PGBook VM 2020. That's the name of the machine, right? That's the one that I had previously. PGBook VM 2020. All the caps and everything are the same. I'm going to put that folder for this thing in the VM folder. It's going to be Linux. And it's going to be like, let's call it an Ubuntu. It's probably an Ubuntu. It was Ubuntu 16, wasn't it? Yes. You remember? It was Ubuntu LTS 64. Can someone look on your screen and tell me if it's
16.04, 2016 virtual machine.
Is it the 64-bit or the 32-bit?
Give me a sec. What would I see that again?
I want to know if it's the 64-bit or the 32-bit.
Okay. Settings. 64.
That's the 64-bit.
Yeah.
1604 LTS 64-bit. That one. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, now I'm in the hardware. How much memory did I need? If I want it to be exactly the same. 4096. How many CPUs? 2 CPUs. Everybody see what I'm doing here?
Recreating.
Hard disk. Do I want to create a new virtual hard disk or use an existing one? Oh, I want to use the one that I had. And see, I added it in there and it knows that my other virtual hard disk is already committed over here in a separate virtual machine. This is the only free one that I had just added with that tool, the virtual media tool. So that's what it shows. But in case it isn't showing on your side, hit the pull down and pick PGBook, right? So now I have the same virtual hard disk that I had before. I've created a whole new machine with 2 CPUs and 4 gigs of RAM, right? And I have all of this here. I'm going to finish this. And now I'm going to tweak some things. I want to go into the system option. And I want to uncheck this, right? Does everybody remember what I had before? Wasn't hard disk at the top? And optical was next? Yeah? Wasn't it like that? Yes. Wasn't this checked? Yes. What about display? That was checked. This was 128. Storage. Yeah, that looks good. Network was bridged, wasn't it? This is exactly the same as what I had in there before. Now, if I try to start this and it misfires, what's my next step to recover my virtual machine? What do I do So I have a virtual machine to keep working with the rest of the semester.
An extension pack?
Well, as long as I've already installed the same extension pack, that wouldn't be the issue, but you could install the extension pack if it was missed. So that's not a bad suggestion. I've seen those kind of misfires happen where the main version of the VirtualBox is upgraded, but the extension pack hasn't been, and it creates a fatal error, right? What I'm going to do, if this doesn't work, I'm going to use the OVA file and just rebuild my PGBook from scratch. And I'm going to go ahead and run apt-get update, apt-get upgrade. That's all I'm going to do. If I still have the OVA file, and I've got it on a separate thumb drive, I can simply import in a new environment of VirtualBox and rebuild the entire thing pretty quickly. But I wanted to show you that when you're working with virtual machines, if something goes haywire, you have a lot of troubleshooting capabilities with a virtual machine that in the physical world used to take days to perform, right? So if we were trying to fix a physical machine in a research laboratory, there's no way we could demonstrate a complete rebuild of an entire system in 15 minutes like we're doing here in class. And so that is one reason to consider working all of your computing applications within a virtual machine, if you can do that, right? So let's see what happens. And hopefully we don't have to pull the OVA file.
Whatever you do, not fun.
Looks better.
Yeah.
Nope. Still have a kernel problem. Still have a kernel problem. So I'm going to get my thumb drive and import my OVA file. Your mileage may vary. This might not happen to you. Now, what are the steps to build our PGBook with the OVA file? We've already done it. It's a part of the earlier solution. So all we got to do is go back and rebuild. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and power this machine off. I'm not going to walk through a build of the virtual machine all over again. We've already got a recording of that from an earlier module. What I am going to do is I will go ahead and delete this. And this time I'll remove all files, including the VDI file, right? Because I want to make sure that that's gone when I try to import. It shouldn't be in here, and it isn't. And it shouldn't be in here, and it isn't. So I'll go ahead and try to, I'm going to go ahead and import the OVA later. What I'd like to do now is stop recording and stop sharing and open the screen up for anybody who's still resolving upgrade issues, challenges with their virtual machines, any issues you're having with the assignments, okay?